I appreciate more today than I ever have all the different facets of our government. The state does listen. Do they do everything we want? No. But do they listen about what we as a team of people on the Innovation Council believe we should be moving toward to really help companies grow? I really believe that public-private partnerships are a good thing if they're lined out and they have the mission defined well, that we can really help affect policies, especially in our state and nationally too, that really help manufacturers, not just Accumold, but all manufacturers. We'd like to see everybody do well in manufacturing. The other thing is talent pipelines, making sure we have a jobs training programs that really help address the needs we have for talent. We're reaching all the way into high schools and literally junior highs, letting kids know what manufacturing, boys and girls at advanced manufacturing like Accumold, what we really have to offer. These young men and women are smart and they're willing to work. If you at least show them a way.
We need way more of that. And I think a lot of times working with government can be complicated and complex, right? There are rules, regulations, who to contact, the organizations themselves. Do you have any advice on how to work through that when someone's trying to duplicate what you're doing for their own state or area?
When we always encourage them, talk to your local legislator and talk to the governor. They're all interested in knowing what they can do at that level to help us, and approach them and say, what can we do to make sure we get heard about what our concerns are as manufacturers?
I love it. Again, you put yourself out there, you get involved, you get noticed, and Accumold becomes a site visit for a vice president. I mean, that's not bad, right? That's pretty good. I'm here with Roger Hargens, who is the CEO and president of Accumold in Ankeny, Iowa, who is a manufacturer of precision micro molding components with a team of about 150 employees, correct?
350.
Oh, 350. All right, that's a lot bigger. All right, well, we're here to talk about leadership and policy and politics. And I want to start off with an interesting fact. Many people probably assume that agriculture drives Iowa's economy, but it's advanced manufacturing that's actually the state's top GDP contributor. So I guess it's actually no surprise that policy and politics are a priority for you as an industry leader, right?
Yes.
Right. And during our initial conversation, you said something to me that stuck out. It stuck with me. You said, which is right here on my board, you shouldn't complain about something if you won't put your time and money into helping improve it. Justified or not, complaining gets you nowhere if it's not backed by some sort of positive action. Now, the problem, in my opinion, in manufacturing is a lot of manufacturing leaders focus solely on operations. So let's start off asking you, what made you decide to step into policy advocacy?
The reason I got involved because I really believe that public-private partnerships are a good thing if they're lined out and they have the mission defined well, that we can really help affect policies, especially in our state and nationally too, that really help manufacturers, not just Accumold, but all manufacturers. We'd like to see everybody do well in manufacturing. So I think really understanding that that's important is the reason 20 years ago, I was asked to be on the Iowa Innovation Council. And what that is a team of public and private companies that were really sitting down and understanding what we think we needed here in the state of Iowa to really advance policies that will really help growth of manufacturers. And I've been on that 20 years, and that's been very helpful, I think, for the state. The state does listen. Do they do everything we want? No. But do they listen about what we as a team of people on the Innovation Council believe we should be moving toward to really help companies grow? That's really the big thing. I'm also a board member on ABI, Association of Business and Industry in Iowa, the oldest association in Iowa. It's 106 years old, 115 years old now. And I've been on that board for 18, 19 years as well.
Okay.
And again, they're very important in helping the state, like the Iowa Innovation Council, advance policies that are very pro growth, pro business.
All right. So let's get a little specific. What specific policies? Give us some examples of what you have found that have been the most critical to manufacturing growth, whether that's specifically Accumold, manufacturing in general. Talk about that a little bit.
The first thing is research and development tax credits, which we put a lot in research and development here. Accumold and a lot of companies in Iowa do. And that way, the research and development tax credit is very helpful, making sure that we have a corporate tax rate that is competitive, in the nation. That's really, really important. We work very hard on that as well. The other thing is talent pipelines, making sure we have a jobs training programs that really help address the needs we have for talent. And that's been really important. That's really helped a lot of companies, especially ours in Iowa, accessing younger folks, helping them get into a career path that may not be always well known. Tool and die and robotics automation, processing, and what have you in manufacturing. So those are just three of a lot of the programs we've worked on. But we want to make sure the state itself keeps itself fiscally responsible. And the other thing is the unemployment tax. Iowa keeps lowering it and lowering it. Our unemployment rate in Iowa is very, very low. I think we're like the third or fourth lowest in the country, somewhere around 3% in that area. So with that said, we've got to still develop talent pipelines. We're reaching all the way into high schools and literally junior highs, letting kids know what manufacturing, boys and girls at advanced manufacturing like Accumold, what we really have to offer through jobs training program. And then we have one in high school for seniors that can, we patented the Iowa Learns apprenticeship program a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. So we take seniors, they can come in and work at Accumold, learn our business, and they get credit, high school and college advanced placement credits. And that program has just been fantastic. These young men and women are smart and they're willing to work, if you at least show them a way. And that's what we're excited about.
So those programs, they're part of, there's some public funding there to help with these programs?
Yes, 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 public and private. Yeah, we help as well on that too.
Okay.
So it's a true public-private partnership.
We need way more of that. And I think a lot of times working with government can be complicated and complex, right? There are rules, regulations, who to contact, the organizations themselves. Do you have any advice on how to work through that when someone's trying to duplicate what you're doing for their own state or area?
Yeah, and one of the things in Iowa, we share what we're doing at Accumold with all the manufacturers if they're interested in working with the governor, the legislature in Iowa. And here's a pathway to sit down and talk to them. And we always encourage them, talk to your local legislator and talk to the governor. They're all interested in knowing what they can do at that level to help us. And some people are very shy about it, but I keep saying, you shouldn't be shy when you need talent.
No,
Everybody
definitely not.
yeah, everybody's got a need for talent, and talk to people. And the nice thing about here in Iowa, some people call us we're too nice, Iowa nice, but all you got to do is call and ask them, and they're happy to sit down, with you. And that's been a real benefit here in the Midwest. And companies, we just had people in from all over the country in the last 3 days, 3 different companies, and they were so pleased to come here and see what we're doing from the East Coast, West Coast. And they like working with people in the Midwest. And we have a can-do attitude. We're innovative. But more importantly, they see a lot of young people in our company that we're bringing in. Is my saying always is, young people are our future. Without the young people, we don't have a future.
Yeah, and everybody can agree on that. I think the differentiator is, again, it goes back to what you said to me earlier. Like you're done complaining about it all these years, and you're actually, you don't know if there's help out there unless you ask. You have to ask. You can't just go on doing the same thing over and over again. All right, so go back to, we're going to go revisit something, and I think it's I think it's appropriate because even though it was a while ago, Vice President Vance just visited, I think it was Vantage Plastics. So we have to chat a little bit about your VP experience because it's not like everybody gets a chance to have a vice president come check out the operation and want to understand what the pain points are and even understand what it actually is a manufacturer does. So do you want to walk us through that Pence visit and how that got set up and What did you most want him to see?
Well, when they called and said they wanted to, with our Vice President Pence, come for a site visit, I was traveling, and I told them I'd get back to them. And they said, "No, you got 5 minutes. We'll hang on." And I said, "Okay." And I looked at my calendar. I'm going, "Oh boy, what do I do?" And I said, "Okay, let's do it." And then that started the whole ball in motion. And the thing that we learned from that, it was a lot of work by folks on the Vice President's whole security team and everything. It was a lot of work here at Accumold. But the benefit from that, the exposure that we got on the market side, because we do a lot of business all over the world, especially East Coast and West Coast and Twin Cities, and the exposure we got from that visit was really good. But the vice president was very interested in knowing what we did, here, and how we hire people, how we innovate, how we develop new things, and how we build a business for the longer term. We've been
Hmm.
around about 40 years, and we're planning on being around a lot longer. And they were interested, and it was really I would say, a very good process of that whole site visit. And we invited as many of our employees that wanted to come, and it was packed, and it was really interesting. They wasn't about me; it was about them getting to see the
Hmm.
vice president and everybody else there that day.
How did you get picked? How did they find out about AccuMold?
I think because my involvement with some of the different, like I mentioned earlier, Iowa Innovation Program, ABI on that program as well, and I was also the co-chair with Governor Kim Reynolds, her STEM Council. Her and I, for 2 terms,
Okay.
I was her co-chair. Worked closely with her on STEM. That's another whole area that I'm a big believer in:
Yep.
science, technology, engineering, and math is an area that we are finally in Iowa. We're really accelerating those programs. I think nationwide we are too. But I got involved with that, and she recommended that we be a good site visit
I
for the
love it.
vice.
Again, you put yourself out there, you get involved, you get noticed, and AccuMold becomes a site visit for a vice president. I mean, that's not bad, right? That's pretty good. So let's tie all this back to leadership. So how has your policy work and all that work you do with the different programs, leaders, other associations, how does that influence your leadership style?
Well, I think really I take ownership of this, and I bring the information back to our employees, say, here's what we're working on, here's what we're trying to accomplish through these other organizations. So we talk about that. So I want our employees to understand that, we're not just sitting in a corner and hope we make some money and ship some parts. We're really wanting to advance the business, to grow the business so it's good for all of them, all of our employees, and it's good for our community, which is great when we grow. My leadership style, I think, I appreciate more today than I ever have all the different facets of our government. There are so many facets to our government, but I think we got to stay on track. And what is the most important part? We're an
Hmm.
advanced manufacturer. It's innovating, and it's producing next generation high tech components for our customers in volume. That's our main thrust of our business.
So, all right. So, speaking about what you just said about your leadership style and what companies should be looking out for, well, are there specific policy issues that you think today manufacturing leaders need to be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think they need to be paying attention to jobs training. I think that's a big thing to get people take existing non-traditional students and up their skills. We're doing that with a lot of our employees, raising their skill level. So two things are more productive and they earn more money, and it's a good thing. I think jobs training is a big thing. Making sure that our taxes are competitive. That is I'll go back to the R&D tax credit, but the other thing that they're working on in DC is we're capital intensive, and a lot of the industries that we see that compete with us are very capital intensive. So making sure that people can have the tax advantages that other countries give their
Hmm.
manufacturers, we should be able to do that here as well to be competitive. I think the main thing is always look for ways to be more productive. Uh, the, the workforce wants to do more. You got to train them. That's really important. But making sure we have a tax policy on R&D, corporate taxes that makes sense, so we can continually reinvest in our business, which we do a lot of that, and a lot of companies do. We want to reinvest to grow the business, innovate new things, new processes, and grow the business.
So, with all that being said, what advice would you give to other manufacturers, other manufacturing leaders about how, like the initial steps to get involved, whether it's local, state, federal? What's the little action plan you can share?
Yeah, I would reach out to your local representatives, statewide and nationally, federal, your senators and your U.S. Representatives as well, and approach them and say, what can we do to make sure we get heard about what our concerns are as manufacturers? And I think you can't do it just once. You got to do it repetitively, because those people get a lot of people coming at them, I'm sure. But
Hmm.
you have to really talk to them and sit down with them, have a cup of coffee and say, here is what would really help our business grow so that we can employ more people. And obviously, the bigger we get, the more taxes we pay as a company. And that's good for the state and federal government as well. The growth solves a lot of problems in a lot of areas. People say that all the time, but it's true.
Excellent. All right, Roger. It's been an honor. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing your story. And everybody out there, stop complaining and take some action.